just like the reforms in the 19th century and 20th century distinguished and dramatically reformed Ireland of those periods. Because 2/3 of Ireland's population, some 2.8 million people, are younger than the Taoiseach. And with the greatest of respect, probably younger than the people on the panel here. But demographic trends offer you as teachers the promise of reshaping the attitudes and outlooks of a new generation. And there's been a lot of talk about 1995, but by 2015, Ireland's 15 to 14-year population will rise more than 15%. And that's one of the highest demographic rates of increases in the whole of the OECD, and other than Spain and Israel. But that's an opportunity, because as someone once said, it's no use carrying an umbrella if your shoes are leaking, because what are you going to do with this opportunity as teachers? Educational revolution shaped Ireland of the 20th century, and will do so again in the 21st. But this revolution, in the words of Johnny Rotten, will not be about access to education, but will be fundamentally be about the way in which education is delivered. And I learnt as a tutor at the University of Limerick, and now as a lecturer in Trinity, so a bit like Charles Haughey claiming Carlow, Wicklow, Limerick and now Dublin. The perception of educational success is dependent on what your beliefs about education are. And an intellectual audit of the roots of our current malaise may conclude that the predisposition towards short-termism in decision-making, deference to authority, and a fear of asking awkward questions were responsible for why the depth of our crisis in Ireland is greater than most other countries in the world, as something which the International Monetary Fund has observed. So the present method of accessing third-level education rewards students that learn rather than understand. And the points race has replaced creative inquiry with exam-orientated teaching. And the consequences of this, as any lecturer in any university will tell you with responsibilities for first-year university teaching, is that the best part of our year, of our first year when we're teaching first years, is spent deprogramming students and educating them to think for themselves rather than the traditional way, the expectations that they have of perhaps being spoon-fed. And Professor Michael Cronin of DCU advocated recently for the introduction of philosophy as a core subject in the Irish educational system, as is the case in many European neighbours. And the confidence to motivate critical thinking within the classroom can have a profound impact on the relationship between education, civil society and democracy. So as educationalists, you hold within your grasp the possibility of reinvigorating and transforming Irish society by generating a new generation of leaders from your classrooms. But how can you achieve this? By having the courage to sit in the same seat as your students and demand of yourselves what you demand of them. And as teachers, you have an enormous influence on your students and have an unrealised power of your ability to shape the minds of a generation. And those that regard teaching as a vocation appreciate its potential to challenge the belief systems of a country by engaging students and facilitating independent thinking. And when Donica O'Malley made his historic decision to introduce free post-primary education in 1967, he did so on the basis of a policy document initiated by Patrick Hillary called Investment in Education, and the research for which was derived from a paper by the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. And the OECD perhaps again hold the underlying suggestions for educational policy reform. Last year, as you know, the OECD published a set of internationally comparable indicators on 30 educational systems in the developed world called Education at a Glance. On the subject of evaluation, the OECD recommends that the effectiveness and efficiency of teachers can be improved through performance appraisals and incentives for continuous improvement. Ireland has the weakest evaluation structures within the OECD, where 39% of secondary school teachers are without any form of school evaluation in the last 5 years. And the type of teaching practiced in Ireland is ranked as having the greatest predominance of structuring practices. It is more traditional and conventional in outlook than other countries. Along with Hungary and Malta, Irish teaching is based on the principles of explicit learning goals, revision and homework review. And Ireland's commitment to student-orientated teaching practices and enhanced activities are not as pronounced according to the OECD report compared to other countries within that report. Denmark encourages a flexible learning environment with a greater emphasis on student autonomy. This is exercised through student self-evaluation and participation in classroom planning. And the Icelandic and Norwegian education systems encourage active citizenship through enhanced activities which promote creativity, such as working on projects and debating. So can Ireland learn from the Danish and Icelandic models? And perhaps now more than ever, before the demographic revolution that will occur before 2015, there is an opportunity and maybe even a duty to rethink the necessity and purpose of the structure-focused junior and leaving certificate exams. In February, as you know, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment published Innovation and Identity Ideas for a New Junior Cert, which produced and presented a set of ideas about how a junior cycle of the future may look. And it emphasised a teaching context which promoted attributes of ethical behaviour, leadership, innovation, personal and social development. So I'm almost finished, but conferences such as these can maybe become missed opportunities to discuss the concept, direction and nature of Irish education. And no other profession, absolutely no other profession in Ireland at this moment or any other time has the power that you have to alter the course of the country's future by making and by presenting different ways for people to think. Because we are a young country with old leaders where new thinking is needed. And it's easy in times like this to be afraid of the future, which is why the past sometimes can help us understand and teach us about the potential of a future which we have still to write. So I'd like to end and conclude by telling you one more very short story from history. And there's been a lot of talk recently about people who don't wish to give service to their country, and people who are depressed or are angry and have very real reasons to be angry and justifiable reasons to be angry when each household in the state has to pay 50,000 euro because of the mistakes of others. And it's very easy to allow that to take away what no one should be able to take away from you, which is your love of your country. But in the last week of March in 1800, almost exactly 210 years ago, Henry Grattan gave his final speech to the Irish House of Commons. His protest at the imminent Act of Union, which sought to unite the Kingdom of Great Britain and the Kingdom of Ireland and create the United Kingdom of Ireland, Great Britain and Ireland, was in vain, because the Irish Parliament voted itself out of existence and Ireland was robbed of legislative independence for 120 years. But Grattan always believed in Ireland, even when there didn't seem to be any hope. And his oratory was an art form and insists on not being read silently, but demands to be read out loud. And he said, "The Constitution may for a time seem lost. The character of the country cannot be lost. The ministers of the Crown will find that it is not so easy to put down forever an ancient and respectable nation by abilities, however great, and by power and corruption, however irresistible. Yet I do not give up my country. I see her in a swoon, but she is not dead. Though in her tomb she lies helpless and motionless, there is on her lips a spirit of life, and on her cheek a glow of beauty. When a plank of the vessel holds together, I will not leave her. Let the courtier present his loyal sail to the breeze, and carry the barque of his fate with every wind that blows. I will remain anchored here, with fidelity to the fortunes of my country, faithful to her freedom and faithful to her fall." Thank you.